What's good, ladies and gentlemen? I am your host, Mr. No Show with No Show Steedy, here to rock with you with my great host,
And I'm
72 the Arc.
72, the architect.
That's right. We're on blank canvas this morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we're gonna ride out the best way we can to get your minds painting up a whole ass world. So let's get it. Yo, Jay, how you feeling today?
Pretty good, pretty good. I have no complaints really.
None whatsoever, man. Like life is just
Well, I can
absolutely wonderful.
complain if I want to look for a complaint, but I don't want to complain. That's the
That's
point.
right. That's right. Because yesterday we talked about what power of thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So it's good to know that people are willing to change their outlooks of life just by a simple thought process. But I want my main man here to read something to y'all's heads so y'all can kind of get the drift of what we'll be talking about today. Yo, if you want to really pay attention, that's on you. If you really want to chime in and tune in, come around. We're on Wisdom. We're on YouTube. Where we at, Jay?
Right now I'm on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, so Twitter Spaces, and my our Facebook personal or private page or whatever. The 72 Arc. That's where I'm producing too. So definitely glad to be here. Right now we're showing a picture of the book that I'm going to read from, a page. I usually do the Daily Stoic on my Rise and Grind and all my other stuff, but today we want to focus on what Robert Greene says, and I think is very, very appropriate for today. So if you see it on YouTube right now, you can go to YouTube and just punch up 72 the Architect, and you'll be able to see what I'm reading from, and I'll actually even show you the page. And this is by Robert Greene's book. All citation and royalties go to him in regards to anything. So I'm not getting paid from this. This is just a simple citation, just to let you
We
all
do
know.
it for
So no,
y'all. We do it for y'all. That's about it.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so let me I forgot to bust out my damn glasses. All right.
There you go. Come
Hey,
on, keep
good
them on.
morning to all those on Wisdom, by the way. So there are some Wisdom listeners, Clint and Sapphire. Welcome on in. Good to see you all. So for March 26th, pay attention to negative cues. In the author of Conan Doyle's story Silver Blaze, a Sherlock Holmes solves a crime by paying attention to what did not happen. The family dog had not barked. This meant that the murder must have have been someone the dog knew. Ooh, and it says this meant oh wait, knew. What the story illustrates is how the average person does not generally pay attention to what we shall call negative cues, what should happen but did not. In our natural tendency to fixate on positive information, to notice only what we can see and hear, it takes a creative type such as Holmes to think more broadly and rigorously, pondering the missing information in the event, visualizing the absence as we see the presence of something. Now, for centuries, doctors considered diseases exclusively as something stemming from the outside of the body attacking it: contagions, germs, and draft cold air, miasmic vapors, and so on. But the treatment depended on finding drugs of some sort that can counteract the harmful effects of the environmental agents of disease. Then, in early the 20th century, a biochemist, Frederick Gowland Hopkins, studying the effects of scurvy, had the idea to reverse this perspective. What caused the problem is a particular disease. He speculated was just attacking from the outside, but was missing from within the body itself. In this case, it came to be known as vitamin C. Thinking creatively, he did not look at what was present, but precisely at what was absent in order to solve the problem. This led the groundbreaking work on vitamins and completely altered a concept of health. So, the
Mm.
daily law, it says, the ability to loosen our minds, to alter our perspective, is a function of imagination. Learn to imagine more possibilities than generally consider. Avoid fixing only on what is present. Ponder what is absent. I think that's pretty
Thanks.
cool if you ask me. And I think it's very appropriate for today.
Oh, most appropriate, my guy. I think it's powerful actually. Um, Pay attention to the negative cues. Think more broadly. Um, Go beyond
Loosen
just
up.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
beyond just the normal realm of what you see in the in the first perspective. And that's kind of like, I've done some things. We all have done some things. And when you have a time to really sit here and break open that curtain, are you true to yourself by understanding what it means, what you're seeing? Because it could play with your head like this is not true, this can't be right. But deep down, it's like there is something that is similar to what I'm feeling and to what I understand to be true. So for that being the case, if I know in my feeling, my gut instincts that this is something terrible or bad, I shouldn't really follow it, or should I follow it? And with that, today we'll be speaking on how good is your poor judgment, because none of us are perfect. We all go through the loops and chains and trying to understand how we can find a needle in a haystack with our thoughts. And it's kind of funny because I believe everyone at least 2 times a day, maybe 3 times a day, overthinks what they first thought. I should do this. And then all of a sudden, like, nah, I'm good. How many times have you taken a test in school or in college or just trying to get a job and you felt like that's not the right answer, but you just put the second one that came to you? It was just easier that way. You second guess yourself. So with today's journey, I want everybody to take their time and really think about how good is your poor judgment? Can you rely on it? Are you happy with it? Does it entertain you? Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
So
Hey, give me just a second.
yeah, we'll be right back, man. Let's go ahead and run it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for that being said, on this first part of the show, I wrote down something very important. How good is your decisions? How awesome do you feel with the things that you've been thinking about? Because honestly, just the other day, I was put into a mix where it could have either been bad for you or bad for me, right? Bad for you, meaning I won't be able to give you the content. This is what I love to do. So if I can't be here with you, then it's like a part of me is left. And then you have another subject where it just comes along where if I didn't go that way and maintain my common decency around society norms, then I think it would have been a little bit more of a pain within me. So it's like I'm faced with two decisions, good and bad. And it's basically all it boils down to. And I have to find out whether choosing the bad side during the situation is going to be the best outcome. Because come on, we all know doing some bad is good, right? It's a double entendre almost. So when you understand it, you can either choose to be bad or choose to be good. It's a whole balance sector. We have to really look into what we're trying to build, how we're trying to level out our pros and cons with society. And when you really think about it, it's like some people won't even do the things that they say they want to do because they're scared of how they're going to be looked. Social credit, if you will. People will judge you on a certain outcome. They don't feel like you're deemed worthy within their eyes. And then that kind of can play on your psyche the whole run. You develop this block where you don't know if you can trust somebody. You don't know if what you'll do is going to alarm them or alert them. And some people just don't care, right? Who gives a damn? Like what I'm doing right now won't affect you. None of your business. Don't even worry about it. We all know somebody like that. And when we put down this on paper and we write down the pros and cons, we really develop an understanding to how we really think. I was always told if you want to have something in your mind, you write it down on a piece of paper, you can see it a lot more clear. So that's what I do. And on this journey, we're going to look into the poor judgments that I've done, the poor judgments that 72 the architect has done, as well as anybody out there who can think about all the poor judgments you have done. And do you feel as if it was a good intake on how you live your life today? Now, I'm over here assessing many of my second guessings, right? I'm over here building levels of what I've done that caused me to think different. And why would I feel this way? What's the psyche behind looking into why am I double guessing my own first thought? Well, only thing that I can come down with is I just get so overwhelmed with the daily burdens because it says here, humans can think up to at least 2,000 to 3,000 decisions in a day. Now, if I'm thinking that much, it could be tedious stuff, right? Are these shoes going with these pants? Are these socks matching this shirt? Do my belt go clean with my necklaces and my watches, my rings? You know, these things. You make all these decisions, whether you overlook them or not, because you do. I'm sure when you're cooking in the kitchen, your mind's going a mile a minute. And then if you have kids running around trying to talk to you, your mind's going a mile a minute. So the decisions are there. We know this. And there's so many that we have to be faced with. But there's only a very few certain pieces that kind of just put a pause to that and get the biggest focus. Whether it be, oh, I forgot to pay a bill this week. Oh, snap, I forgot to take care of the trash. Oh, the car door was unlocked last night. Somebody could have broke in. I left my car running and the battery was still on. You know, some these little things that we just overlook that become huge, bigger problems. And that's what we're looking at because, you know, what are we doing? Do we have too much stuff that is surrounding us? Do we have all these things that are in our face constantly giving us the distractions that we don't want, but we kind of enjoy? What is it? How many times does your phone go off just from different apps or different friends or different emails? The notification thing is just crazy, right? Back in the day, it only way to get spam mail it would be through the mailbox, right? Now today you can get spam mail in your email box, and it comes way more frequent than the ones in the actual mailbox did ever. So now you have spam. Now you have all these complications. Now you have everything that really bothers you and holds you back. So what are we doing now? What are we doing? Are we really looking at the judgment system? Are we looking at how we're trying to focus on tomorrow's because the decisions of today are just overwhelming? Is that what it is? Are you overwhelmed with thoughts that just plague you in your journey? I am. I have. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm always going around trying to take care of multiple things. So yeah, I fault in there. And the thing is, I pinpointed either a day later or a couple of hours later, and it's like, yeah, I forget things. I'm a forgetful person. So that means there's things that I need to look into a little bit more clear. What time is going to be more focused towards this agenda, this pre-planned design that we have here on my calendar? Like, what are we trying to do? And from what I understand, it's very important that we look at the most important things first and look at the least important things. So when I went to go pay off my old credit, my old debits, you know, I was told never pay off the bigger one first. Why? Well, if you have like three credit cards and you have one that's like 700 and you have one that's 200 and the other one's that's 30, you want to pay the quickest one off first, right? You kind of want to work from your bottom up. But my decisions don't usually work like that. The reasons why my decisions are working best if I work from top to bottom is because the biggest problems have the biggest weight. It's putting more pressure down on me. But if I'm doing the decision making and how I'm going to structure certain things, it feels as if that mentality helps with the bottom down. I mean, the bottom up. So where am I at in between all this, right? I'm kind of too much pressure, releasing the pressure. So now
Right.
we have to really step into this whole IQ of it all. So that's how I feel. Yo, Jay, you back, man?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I could definitely hear you, man. Yo, what's good?
Yeah, my video went out, so we'll just do the without my video for right now, but y'all can hear me.
No doubt. Yo, change my layout for me real quick, man.
All right, hold on one second. There we go.
All right, yo. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. So you kind of got what I was saying. I mean, I don't know how much you tuned into
No, I
me.
heard everything. I
Okay,
haven't
okay.
I haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is the decision factor, right? It really plays big into our judgments. As I said earlier, the way I usually take my problems is from the heaviest up, down, and versus using some kind of structured situations like paying bills or getting to work or taking care of this on time. I will work that from the least up. So it's kind of like a play on emotions. How do you feel about tackling your decisions from the heaviest problems to the lightest, or from the lightest problem to the heaviest?
I think there's a lot of different philosophies about what you can do, when you're tackling your bills. But does anyone ever I mean, let's just talk about money. If you were to think about bills, if you're just paying into the bill,
Mhm.
are you really paying yourself? No, you're not. This is how really wealth works. There's your necessities and your priorities, and then there's what your wants and desires. But if you really think about it, you compromise those things, your wants, when you decide to borrow. And no one ever thinks about, how long am I willing to borrow against?
Mm,
Because interest and the terms, when you borrow something, that tells you right then and there whether it's money or your attention or your availability or your job, even what you work with. If you really think about this, you know, it's like, of course, we're only focused on paying the bills, right? But
mm,
what I've learned in this book called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey's is, if you aren't really setting yourself up for success, and that basically means that you have to take in consideration of, am I paying bills and am I also trying to save? Most people can't differentiate between the two. But the way to get out of debt, really, you have to compromise some savings. You have to build, like, okay, for number one, he would say, build up an emergency fund, $1,000 to use at any given time for a real emergency. You're broke down on the side of the road. You need a tow, or you need a hotel and you didn't count on being there. Having that emergency fund to pay for things cash in an account that you don't touch, but it's there always. And once you use it, your first priority is to pay it back. But then there talks about a second account to have 3 to 6 months of your income, like all your expenses, your bills for 6 months, right?
okay.
So those are your two priorities to build up while you're paying bills. You pay off the smaller, like you were saying in the beginning, but that's the thing, is you gotta be on the discipline to not borrow again.
Yo, so check this out, right? How many times have we went into our little piggy bank saying we're gonna put some money back? Like,
Right.
like you're short on a bill, so you go into your little stash. You're like, I'll put it right back. I promise you, I swear, I put it back. Now you think about it, it's like, am I lying to myself? And with this lie, do I feel good about it? Like, knowing I'm doing it, do I feel okay? This is gonna happen, knowing it might not come back. And then you start really putting that into a lot of the people that you meet, the businesses, the work ethic into the job. Like, if I work this hard, will they really honor me and paying me this amount of money? And sometimes, when you think about it, when we get into these apps, we don't read. A lot of us, well, I didn't do it at first. I'm not gonna speak for everybody else, but I didn't read the terms of services. Right? I was just like, yeah,
You just did it with on autopilot. You're like, hey, I got access. Who cares?
I'm programmed to just let it go, just whatever. Like, I don't need to read it. Screw it. Like, when you take it, when you go to the restroom, like, no toilet paper. I can walk about 10 feet. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But the whole idea is that if my decisions really need to weigh on me, then out of the 2,000 or 3,000 our mind receives on a daily dose, whether it be big, small, right? I'm plaguing the decisions with, am I going to fail if I'm okay with being failing, or continue failing at these decisions? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Right, I had to really weigh out some of the bills that I have to pay. I have to look into some of the money that I want to save, and how much it's going to hurt if I don't have additional money, because that additional money might require me to, buy a few things here on this weekend. Maybe go get something to eat. You know, give me something on the slide, or add some gas for those who are really worried about this situation. So it's kind of interesting in that light. But I'm just a regular guy. I mean, if you have,
Right. But if you don't have the discipline to build wealth mindset, then what do you have? You have a recessive mindset to
recessive.
have to pay out. Like, I read something today. I said the first killer of your dreams is to have doubt in your mind more than your actual failure of your actions.
Mm.
Once you begin the trail of doubt, that will kill your dreams and your fortunes. Honestly, it will. Your failure in your mindset when you adopt, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I don't have, like, okay, like, for example, my webcam went out, and I was on a minute ago, I don't know what happened, it whatever glitched, I'm not really necessarily worried about it. But what I am more concerned about is, like, look, if y'all can hear me audio wise and it's recording, then it serves its purpose. You keep going forward. You can't just, like, stop. Like when my car broke down back in January and my transmission was out, and I didn't have the money necessarily, but my lady backed me up, you know, and we talked about it, and we talked about our strategy of, like, this is what we got to do, keep me working, keep me on the road. But I was also like, I spent so much money on investments and other things instead of my emergency fund. Had I done that,
You would have been
if I would have
eligible.
had 6
Mm.
months of emergency fund, I wouldn't have asked her, but still, and I paid her right back. I mean, I made the money,
Right.
like about a month later. I was like, "Here you go. This is the
But you
money
could have
back."
actually stopped having to go through that situation, though.
Yeah,
Like
it
you
was
could
an
have.
unforeseen thing,
Yeah.
and we can't predict when things are going down, but and brands, I mean, think about it. People like to coin themselves a quality brand according to, what you've always seen before, but is that also a route to is this a route to how good your poor judgment really is?
Mm.
You really think
Mm.
about it, it's like, did you do the research? Like, for me, after I started finding out when my transmission went out, I found out that the Nissan CVT transmission is the worst automatic transmission in the whole auto industry. And so many others are similar like it, but Nissan is known to last miles and miles. I mean, you get great miles. Like I for work, I drive a Nissan Sentra, right?
Mhm.
And I get 39 miles to the gallon. Now, I don't have an electric vehicle. And that's a whole nother discussion. But the point is like, when we sat down and looked at, what do I have in my backup? What am I building in my wealth? Well, the reality was I didn't. I
Mm.
countered
Mm.
and I bet on getting later. And it was just also reminding me when I was a waiter. Every server in the food server industry, they go through this. They make cash in one day and they'll spend it like it's easy, like it's just
Right.
drinking water.
Right. Are you
And
living for today? Are you
yeah,
living for tomorrow? Yeah. And like, that's one of the things that I don't see. Right. Early on, I didn't see that or understand it at least. Now, my mind wasn't
mhm,
thinking about doing it. Right. Why would I need to? Why would I need to? I'm right now, motherfuckers. Right. You see
right,
me today. I don't know if I'm gonna make it tomorrow. You see me now. Let's live for now. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go get something to drink. Let's go party. Let's go cruise. We'll figure out when we get there tomorrow. Right.
right,
That is that is ultimate freedom. Who doesn't want to focus in that world, man? Like who doesn't see the point of living for tomorrow if you don't know it today? Like a lot of us are like in my time right now. I feel a lot of us just live for the moment. Who cares? Like we never know when it's coming. So why should I think about 2 weeks from now? Why do I even need to worry about that?
right.
It's freedom.
Well, I mean, don't you notice, like, in social medias, people will say, "Live for the now. You can't predict the future. Why are you betting on tomorrow?" It's a mixture of things where if you don't think about, you have to do a little bit of planning, um, your seeds for the future. You really do have to take in consideration, like, if I don't have something, if I don't use, like, for example, I'd rather use cash than credit, straight up. You know, I would hands down rather use credit than, or not, I mean, cash than over credit every single time,
What if people
because
did use
once
that?
it's done, it's done. You know what I mean? It's not like you're having to deal with it to come back.
So if we all started using cash again, just stop using credit, right? Just
Right.
thinking like this, would we be pushed to use our credit even more so than ever? Like if everybody started paying with cash, using their cash to pay for
Well,
their
here's the thing about
food.
credit. It's not your money. It's not your money
None
right
of it's
now.
our money. I mean, it's the bargaining or the agreements that are being made between the two entities that make it functional. So
Right?
we can
It's the
I
access.
so was it my buddy in last night we were smoking cigars, chilling, right? He was telling me that I gotta look this up just to be on the proof tip, but he said that Switzerland or the Netherlands were using tulips as currency for a minute. Like they would actually use the value of tulips, the flower, right, to buy things and trade things and whatnot. They made it work for like 2 or 3 years, from what I understand, but after that, it came a whole bunch of problems. So it's like, what's the real decision making plan here? Am I going to use, if this story is accurate as it is, without me even looking at it firsthand? Um, would the value system be any different if I looked at it as such? What use case could I get from tulips if cash is bringing the same importance for amount a certain time of year?
Mhm.
I think it's crazy. I think it's the decisions that we value, the decisions that we understand. Because I think we're all making poor judgment when we wake up in the morning to an alarm clock. I think that's poor judgment versus living. But then again, I also think it's good judgment to maintain your structured entity, right? Your personal business. So yeah, I'm back and forth with it. But let me just get rid of the play of words and just kind of focus on 72. If you had a decision to make where you can get your lotto ticket winnings today for all of it right now through an insurance company or through the government or through a certain bank, would you take that, or would you take the same options and get it as a daily payment? And you cannot take all of it out, but you only can get a percentage that lotto winnings as a daily. Which one would you prefer to take? What's your decision in that matter?
That's tough because I've been on both sides of the coin. You know, I've been on the, got paid out daily, and then I don't know. I think it's really amount of the where your priorities are first for your needs. This is one thing I didn't pay attention to, and I'm just going to admit this. I'm 49. I didn't start paying attention to it until the last 5 years. I really didn't pay attention about how money flowed and how I made it or how I spent it. But, the repercussions are when I want to do certain things with my kids, I can't. I really can't because I have to take care of the house, electricity, the food, the transportation. Those are the core essentials, even though I remember last year I promised my daughter to take her to Disneyland, right? And it didn't go through. And she was really upset. And this has also caused a problem for me. Like my ex was telling me, you promised her and you failed. And I'm like, look, I'm facing hard times. And her response was, you're always facing hard times. And right then and there, I wanted to get mad. I wanted to argue, but it made me think long enough and really deep enough. All right, this needs to change right now. This needs to stop. And where I decided to put my mindset, where I needed to think, what I needed to do, best to make me. This is where I've been really on a stint since January 1 this year. I swore to myself my outcomes were going to be 10 times better than they ever been before. But I also had to write down the consequences of my choices. So if I'm going to make this happen, then guess what? I cannot do this. I cannot spend $400 on going out to eat every month, lunch or not,
Mm-hmm.
or even, taking my lady out, my kids out. I'm not going to spend, I am really going to take that $400. Let's just say that amount. And I am going to revert it. I'm going to save half of it. $200 goes to a savings account. It's emergency fund until those two accounts are set up, first, then I got a lot of work to do. And I wrote a timeline. So, and
Right.
the other 200 I took to pay off, like I got in an accident in 2020 and I had to pay the difference. Like, I didn't have gap insurance on the car, so I owed
Mhm.
7,000. So what did I do last year? I paid that 7,000. So I had 2 car payments at one time, you know,
Shit, that's nothing
and
bad.
what I had to do what yeah, it sucked, but because I didn't have gap insurance, which would have covered the whole vehicle, even though it was totaled, it wasn't my fault,
Right.
I had to pay 7,000 out of my own pocket and go
Oof.
towards that, and guess what? Now that $460 a month that I used to pay for a car payment is gone. It's done. Straight up. I sacrificed for a year. I was like, "Bam, it's done." So now I
Just
have
benefited for the now versus the later.
yeah. So I got
Mm,
rid of that bill, and guess what?
mm,
Using the same philosophy this year, there's 3 distinct bills of credit. I have 1 credit card, and I have
okay.
2, like, investment whatever things that I owed on. So pay those off this year, and then also while I'm doing that, I'm looking about how I'm putting my own coin from my own bucket, not somebody else's bucket.
Mm.
So my good judgment says, all right, we're not going to buy stupid shit. We're only, if I'm buying things, it has to have an ROI, return on investment. So if I'm willing to take a debt, it better pay me back. So then it made me start thinking, like when we were talking the other day, and you were saying your wife, was talking about 75-inch square, TV, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, wait, our 65-inch is just good enough. Where can that,
Why do we go bigger? Yeah. Why?
yeah. So in the long run, we have to really decide like, okay, these are the best things for me and my family. And sometimes you don't want to say no. You're like, yeah, let's just go for it. Okay, let's go have a steak dinner. When you've got 5 people to feed, essentially, let's just use five. That is not cheap in food costs today. It's not. And it just like, and then you're like looking at the end, you're like looking at your paycheck, and you're like, well, do I have enough for the groceries in this? Am I really feeling good about myself? And I don't. If I feel horrible about how I use my money and and I can't save money, it keeps me in a pigeonhole where I can't accelerate my value. And I'm not looking for the good opportunities where I really can benefit.
Yo,
You know what I'm
you know
saying?
what? It's crazy because when you said it, the first thing that popped into my head was that you can feel rich when you are poor.
You can.
And that's the craziest thing about it. Like I felt the most, powerful when I have been broke before, right? Like you're like, shit, I don't know how I'm gonna get the money. And then you end up finding it, and then it's just like, why do I gotta keep scrounging for this money? Then sometimes you feel like, damn, this is a good feeling. Like I ain't got to worry about paying nothing. It's great. Almost like a kid, right? They ain't got to worry about paying nothing.
Right.
They just gotta wake up, brush their teeth, eat, and whatever. That's kind of how it is, man. You get that kid in you. Money's not a thing. Money's not an item. It doesn't matter, and it just feels good. It's just like a drug. Takes over. Like I don't know what that energy felt is supposed to really do for me, but I'm sure a lot of people feel good about doing it because they don't give up on money. They
For
they
the
they
now.
encourage it.
Yeah.
They encourage it.
Right.
So even if it's coming out of thin air, literally printing out of thin air. Check this out. I found a story with the tulip mania, right? Apparently, it was an irrational story that tulip mania was a frenzy. Everyone in the Netherlands was involved, from chimney sweeps to aristocrats. The same tulip bulb, or rather tulip future, was traded sometimes 10 times daily. No
Mhm.
more, no one wanted the bulbs, only the profits. It was like a phenomenon of pure greed. I mean, they were saying that tulips were sold for crazy prices, almost as the price of a house. Fortunes was won and lost, and it says it here, it was the foolishness of the newcomers to the market that sell off the crash in February 1637. Desperate bankrupts threw themselves in canals. The government finally stepped in and seized the trade, but not before the economy of Holland was ruined. So um, that's just the mindset, like where people can use anything or deem as currency. Um, and that will have the government come in if powerful enough to shut it down. Obviously, they're going for some time. I mean, the country was making, how much is a house back then? Like, kind of like what it would be for us right now if we decided to do something crazy.
I couldn't
Like,
even
could you
quantify it.
imagine? Like, could you imagine selling bulbs of flowers for the amount of a house, even if it was like for 100,000, bro?
Well, think
Maybe
about
even
how that
50.
monopoly works. Translate it to modern day age. What they did then was just a test to see how far you could take it with people. So you look at nowadays, people can't, there are too many people who cannot find a place to live. They cannot afford to live. And the price of renting a home or renting an apartment can be
Mhm.
more than paying a mortgage. But here's the
Right.
catch. If you can't be loaned, I can squeeze more out of you from rent, because rent goes up, but a mortgage does not, unless you did some kind of interest only, which I don't think you can do interest only loans. But if you really think about it, it's like what they did in 2008 before, in interest only loans and giving people loans who never would have qualified under normal circumstances. And then when
Created a
bank
bubble.
yeah, and what they did was they built all these homes, they went bankrupt or repossessed, and the banks sold them, for high profits. And here you're looking at where in my own city, we have more homeless people. There isn't a major area you can't go to without seeing someone homeless begging or whatever. And that's really a measure of the economy. That's just on the local level. Now quantify that statewide, then national. And all these people are promising things that they don't fix. They're taking orders from somebody else. So in the long run, you have to think like, did the banks swindle people out of land? Yes, they did. Did they do it wisely for their benefit? Yes, they did. How did they do it? They used an international global banking system and loan system so complicated that the average consumer can't pay back in their regional life or their living lifetime. Most people take a home loan starting at age 30, and if they do a 15-year fix and stay true to it, don't refinance, you stay to it, okay, good. Then you don't have payments, you just have taxes.
Yo, this is crazy. So while you were saying that, I was kind of pulling up some of the statistics of total people experiencing homelessness. Kind of for those who are watching on YouTube and Twitch, feel free to come. I'm about to share this video, and you'll be able to see it firsthand. Yeah, let me pull it up right quick, my guy. It's kind of crazy how you said that you guys are experiencing that much of an issue. It's mind blowing. All right,
Well,
California, you take the cake, my guy.
I told
Like,
you.
that is ludicrous what I'm seeing right now. Because just for me, right? This is just a statistic from uh, how Georgia has estimated almost 10,000 homelessness um, families, veterans, young adults, 10,000. And, just doing it here in Georgia, that's not nearly, I mean, New Mexico's fine. Like, they got lucky numbers, I guess. Utah is fine. Idaho's, I mean, I guess per capita, due to the population, how many live there, that may not be all that good, right? But California,
Yeah, we're the worst. They want people to move out of our state. They really want a lot of middle class to move out, and they're creating what's called land barons. But they're corporations, and by doing so, what they do is they monopolize the rents. They can demolish a lot of the ugliest housing possible, beautify, and gentrification comes in. Like, look at the city of Oakland. It has one of the worst homeless populations in the whole country next to San Francisco.
all right, peep that, right? Where do people move to from there? You're
They
talking
go to
about
your
almost
state in Texas,
right. They influx the next biggest rise, right? I mean, no
but they
one's
also
moving.
cause a pressure where you live.
Yeah, yeah. So it's only like I see it like this. It's going to be only for so long. How many people will start flowing from your state into the neighboring states, and those states start blowing up after those families? So you're talking about what, 10, 15 years, maybe almost 20?
No, it's already happening.
What I'm saying
It's
is, right, right. What as an estimate for that next state, right, to go through what California is doing? Because it took how many years from the time that you've been there to see the influx of homelessness, and then now the push out? Would you say 20 years? Would you say longer? Or would you
less,
say less?
more like
Okay.
7, maybe 5 to 7.
Every 7 years?
Probably. Look at the cycle. Okay, so there was an economy bust in 2008. Add 7 years on to that. That was 2015. There was a big dip financially in the global commerce in 2015, 2016. Here we are, 2022. Look at where we're at. We've got we supposedly, allegedly are suffering the financial burdens of COVID. But yet they supposedly have jobs or employment offers all over and people don't want to work. No, there's a difference of people taking wages that they can't live off of. So if I go work two, 3 jobs and I can only pay for, say, like a 2-bedroom apartment and I have a 5 people in my family, how do you think that affects the marriage, the children? I mean, yeah, kids could bunk up, but
Right.
but that's the thing. You know what I mean? So,
And that's why I'm looking at, because it is the decision that is actually happening right now to leave these conditions, right? Their homes, their families, what they've come to love and know. Now that we have this whole baker's pie in the oven ready to get cooked, it's about
mhm.
the future, right? Because we can't think about just today. Like, all right, I'm taking this information that 72 the architect and no show is talking about, and I'm just gonna, all right, receive it, and then like food, eat it, and then number two it. Next day is the next outcome. The next day after that is the next outcome. So we have to literally think about the decisions that affect us days from today, regardless of what we decide to do or what we want, the urges, the need.
Well,
Because in
look at it
time,
this way, no show.
right,
If
right,
you Okay, so go back and what we were talking about. If you created your emergency funds while you're paying your bills, once you have your emergency funds and then you can build a regular savings, are you so willing to go and just let your assets go to somebody else's benefit so easily? The wealthy don't. What do the wealthy do? They don't buy, like when they dress themselves. You don't see Gucci and Dior and Prada all over their clothing. You don't see Nike all over their t-shirts. They wear plain clothes. They buy their cars outright. They don't have payments. That's the key. They know they have to use some kind of debt, but it's very minimalistic, you know?
right, right. People want what they want, though, bro. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what it is, because you can't tell somebody. Hold on. Let me hold on. Let me put this together right quick, because my mind is really blown up when I'm thinking, people are just gonna give up playing basketball, bro. You know what I'm saying? People are just gonna continue playing it. That's what they love. They love going to the specific level of basketball at the NBA.
Mhm,
Anybody does, right? My hat right now, I have the Grizzly logo on there. But in time, that Grizzly logo will be my logo. Like, I'm not gonna be putting my endeavors into something I don't no longer believe in. Now,
mhm.
here's what I do see the switch in doing, right? Because I don't think that red, because if you look at the sports teams and all that, they have all the power that run California. There's so many sports teams in California alone. The money going into those venues creates the huge power that California has. Right, that's overall a landmark.
If
It's bold.
California were to be its own country, we would have more money that goes through our
Hmm.
state than in any section of the United States. We have
Exactly.
more money coming through in California, but it funnels. Here's the trick I've been discovering. All this money that comes through my state gets funneled into the state of Texas, where a lot of corporate headquarters now are. Why? Because they don't have a federal income tax standard or a state tax standard that makes them pay so much. Like
Mm.
Texas literally lives, you know, I don't want to say tax free, but they give a lot of big corporations benefits by not paying major taxes. And what they do is they're able to allow people to have affordable housing
Wow.
to a degree because they can afford to have their headquarters, but yet the money still is funneled from California because of what we have here now. Our population funds another. That's in my opinion.
I mean, you're not wrong, right? Money influences power. So no matter what we like to say, it speaks for itself in this image, man. And that's when I look at it in years to come. That red in California is being pushed over to Utah, Nevada, and it's going to keep going east. Literally, they already claimed the South, the new Hollywood, right? Films have been done in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama for years, even Tennessee. But that I guarantee that section right now is going to start looking how California and New York is. It's just going to start getting bluer and bluer. But maybe actually New York might go redder and redder. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Oh,
like,
you can see. Okay, so look at the quality of colors in each state. Okay, so you got Oregon and Washington above California. Washington and Seattle has one of the worst homelessness rates. Just Seattle alone
right.
has the worst homeless rate, for that state more than two or three other states. Then you go to Portland, Oregon, who has been reported to having so many riots and protests,
Mhm.
and their homeless community has gone up
I
dramatically when these cities
and
were
drugs.
clean.
Yeah. My buddy's in Oregon right now. He moved from California. My college buddy moved from California to Oregon. He's there right now. And we talked about this the other day about the housing market. And he I'm not gonna speak too much on some shit. I ain't no new age rapper. But what I'm saying is the things that he's told me, it's creepy. The fact that the whole West Side is getting that whole rise in homelessness. And then I don't know about Texas. I don't understand Texas yet. Maybe there's something I have to look in about with Texas, but New
Look
York,
at every major restaurant and their corporate headquarters. It usually takes place in Dallas or Houston. Now, you
mm,
look at the big moves that Elon Musk is making with Tesla. He's moving a major portion of his industrial production going out of McAllen, Texas, and several other communities. And I think their initial plan is to leave the San Francisco Bay Area. I think they're in Hayward or Fremont. They have factories there, and they're going to move them out. Why? Because Tesla has to pay such high, you know, into income tax, to be there. And the Bay Area is so many people, like so many families live in one house. There's like two or three families that could live in one home and cramped quarters, and it causes a lot of emotional havoc. And these people can't afford, like, people can't live in the East Bay like they used to. Like, and then you've got the dot commerce and people coming from other countries, because of their intellectual property talent, they're coders, they're designers. I mean, now we live in an age where they don't have to move here. So now they've been outsourcing to India, the Philippines, Indonesia,
mm,
Korea, and in Japan and China, especially. They now have figured out, like, well, why would we even want to bring the people over when we have such a fast network to literally keep things going without moving people? We can keep our talent where we're at in our country, and it creates an isolationist attitude is really what it does. And so
mm.
Americans are just now figuring it out, like, oh, wow, I'm in a bad position. And now they feel that people are, what do you call it, not able to manage a lifestyle or manage a career. They can't keep jobs like they used to. They used to have people used to have
Right.
career positions, and guess what? The average probably person is changing their job every 5 years.
So
Corporations
now,
fall.
so now that we have that, because I was talking to my lady about it because I know if anybody were to supposedly want to go get a loan, right? They're gonna look at longevity and they're gonna see how valuable that key focus is for them to be like, okay, this person's reliable, been at this job for 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. Whoa, that's a gem. Hold on, okay. So it's going to play into the effect of how society norms will be ran through. And if Texas is the new stomping ground of gaining its independence, like California, if they did, right, that's the powerhouse dominance. So it's like, would these states become privately owned, right? That's
Well,
my
yeah,
biggest
that's
thing.
what Texas is trying to move because remember there
I don't
was it
know.
last
It's
year
terrible.
their winter grid went down last year. Their power
Yeah.
grid went down, and no, that's not alleged. Their power grid did
No,
go
but
down.
I know it's like a cover. Like y'all know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
alleged. It shit is real.
Right. And what people don't realize, like, there are native Texans who don't want people from California. I mean, Arizona right now is flooded full of Californians leaving, including my dad is moving there, and my uncles have moved there. They don't want to live here. They can't afford it in their retirement. They own their houses and they're like, why am I going to work so hard to pay high property taxes, income taxes in my retirement? You know, you're ruining it.
It's it's the next immigration crisis.
Right.
It's the next immigration crisis, and it's almost going to. I feel like it can cause the internal war. Right? It's
It
there's
can
so much
because people hate each other coming from other communities into their community.
exactly all this new age stuff coming to my community, and it's funny all because it's a decision that led to poor judgment, and it's not necessarily our poor judgment. You know what I'm saying? It's more or less it's the things that come around in our society or in contact with us creates us to think is our poor judgment superseding our real good moral judgment. And that's how it is with everything we're listening to today. I don't know about you, Jay, but I think it's like mind blowing to see this. Now families are ridiculed and ruined. Other families will experience if
Well,
need.
let's revisit a
Remember
couple
when
things in the last 2
Katrina
years.
Right. Remember when
Okay,
Katrina flooded New Orleans and what happened in Georgia? Mass robberies, murders, people getting their stuff stolen. It was crazy. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now happen and play out.
well, I mean, let's review. We've talked about it in other episodes where, you looked at the effects of Hurricane Katrina still presently today. You have to look at BLM, Black Lives Matter. You have to look at the George Floyd incident. Like, people didn't care about the virus. They cared more. They're frustrated being home. They went out and destroyed things. And even before COVID, you had how many Trayvon Martin from Florida, you know, you had that case and people rioted around the country. Black communities rioted against and destroyed some of their own home sets, and they blamed white people, all white people. And it creates this racial divide and not thinking like, well, not all white people were your enemies to begin with. And what happened in business, like especially like in Oakland, anyone who owned a business in downtown Oakland, they would put murals of, hey, we support Black Lives Matter. But
Right.
if you looked at their employees, not a lot of African or Black Americans were in leadership roles. They're in supportive or semi management. This is what I've seen and heard from people that were in the industries. And they were like, and now they had last year the great resignation, which people got fed up and they said, no, I'm quitting. I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm leaving. And so this is opinions, ladies and gentlemen, but these are, you can look up and find out what I'm talking about by looking at these specific issues hand in hand. So we have to understand that what we're willing to give up, for the now. And me, now that I'm going to be 50, I'm not willing to give up any more. I'm not willing to pay. 10 years for any debt that I'm willing to take now. I'm not willing to do that anymore. I want to spend the rest of my time, for example, I love my 14-year-old daughter. I love my 4-year-old daughter. My 14-year-old's entering into high school. I've got 4 years before she takes off, to be an adult. My focus is to be a great dad, enjoy that experience while she's here under my care because, just looking at her and growing up, and I'm so proud of her. You know what I mean? And you can't escape that. So my
No.
reality is my goal is my family. It's not what I own or my house or any of that stuff. It's more about, you know, I'd value more life experience than actually possessions I own. I'm at that point in my life.
I mean, I think it's a level we all go through. I really
Right.
dig that we all experience that. We get that firsthand account. We enjoy knowing that I'm splurging. I don't give a damn about tomorrow. It's good to have that feeling, right? But there's a time to grow up. Time
Mhm.
to be like, all right, cool. This is real. I had too many close calls back then, and it's buckling down right now. It's time to wisen up. I know my first thought it's just real, but my second thought always likes to take precedence over that first initial instinct. So maybe we need to follow more of our instincts. Maybe we need to just understand our first decision has a more righteous motive behind it versus the second one that just can't creep right in and just make you feel a little bit more alive.
Mhm.
More things more to be true, right? If I follow my first instincts, yeah, there's such situations where it may not be plausible to use in, but I feel like it's a stronger decision factor dividing moment where this or this choice is the best one to choose from. Not the
Right.
better of evils. There's two goods to one evil.
Well, how many times let's look at what you've talked about in your own shows when you do in your podcast. How many times have you talked about the importance of having a meal around your family at a table? How many times have you really paid attention to the nutrition of the kids and not buying the sodas, the chips, and all that crap? You're laying foundation for them. They don't value it right now, and they won't until they're managing their own lives. And that's the thing is like we as parents, we don't realize what happens until it means something. But do
Right.
you have vision? And so do you have vision? Can you enjoy today without over leveraging today and tomorrow? Can you live that way? That's really what it comes down to. It doesn't matter if you drive a BMW and you drive a 3 Series, I could really give a damn, you know,
But
because
it's three, dog.
how
The
much are you
three.
willing to get monthly payments for something that's going to break down more sooner than later and then cost you more to repair it? And then you've still got that payment every month. Or, what if how can people really plan a vacation when they need rest and relaxation away from all the devices that they have in their consciousness today?
Mm,
If you don't have that time to rest your mind, to rest your body, how many of us sleep 6, 7 hours, 6 hours or less because we're stressed? How many of us don't eat properly or make good decisions because we don't rest? We don't know how to give up the grind. We hear people saying work 14 hours a day, sleep 8 hours a day, whatever, or 6 hours a day. It's like it's like you would hear all these famous people, like one of the people I look forward to is, like, for example, Floyd Mayweather. He would say, "Hey, before a fight, I'm sleeping less, I'm relaxing, but I put a lot of hours in the gym and a lot of time in my money management." Now, I kind of feel like part of him is a fraud and he's just showing off. But also at the same time, if you really catch on him, he's not being a fraud because he's showing that he's made his own fight production company. He owns his
mm,
own real estate holding
mm.
company.
I don't mean
So,
shit. Yeah, I mean shit. People don't like him.
right. But
Mike
see,
Tyson.
hating on
Mike Tyson.
somebody, he means he's doing something right
Nah, not
to a
necessarily.
degree.
To a
To a
degree,
degree.
a lot of the decisions that he does, I ain't rocking with.
Yeah, I
Just
don't rock with
because
his gambling habit. I don't rock with his being flashy, but you know what?
that's
That's his
personal.
life.
Yeah, that's your life to his life. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't really compare. But you know, as an individual, and decisions that justify you. So yeah, that's the respect in it.
Right. So I appreciate, and hey, if people succeed more than I do, okay, that's great. I'm happy for you. I'm not going to take away from that. Good for you. Because I know that the natural energy in the world and in the air, if I take care of my soul and my body while I'm here, then I've done my best job. You know what I mean?
Word, wired's the word. I feel y'all. But yo, big ups to all those who took the time to come in and chime in for this whole hour fly session. Big ups to Cyber One Productions in the building. Let's give it up to Lulu Shonda. Let's give it up for Shonda Lulu. I like to play on words. Desert Fox is in the house, you know what I'm saying? Plenty other listeners as well that came through. Big ups to each and every one of y'all. We'll play the messages here after we get off this live. Yo, 72, is there anything else you want to let the people know, my guy?
No, I think tomorrow I'm gonna do rise and grind tomorrow morning for a brunch, kind of a wrap up for the week I've talked on here and in my own independent stuff. And then Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. I'll probably do rise and grind for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. So I'm doing that twice a week, and we're doing blank canvas twice a week. We specularly talked about Tuesdays and Saturdays. You can find us blank canvas here on the video and digital networks that we're attached to: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter Spaces. You can find us here. Um, are we doing Tuesday night? Did we nail that down Tuesday night?
For right
Or
now, we'll probably end up doing it in the morning versus
okay,
night.
Tuesday
Yeah,
morning.
yeah, more or less in the morning because I have my script writing crew in 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
So the announcement is then 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe it is. And what is it, 8:30 Mountain Central. So if you're on any of those time zones for Tuesday morning, you can find Blank Canvas. And we have a series of topics to talk about. I don't know if we really want to release the next one, but um,
they'll come by and get it when they get it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They'll get it when they get it.
Yeah, so check us out on Tuesday morning, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and you'll be able to check us out live. And I think what I'm going to do is record this independently audio and not try to go live on Wisdom because or some of the other audio apps because that's why my camera glitched out. Something in the tech, so that's why y'all can't see me. But these are just things to be worked out. But when we come on here, it's a video and audio experience, and we'll release the audio recordings for the platforms for your podcasting pleasure or whatever. But make sure that you subscribe and like to our YouTube, and you can share the show.
Big ups, everybody. Yo, we'll get up with y'all later, man. Peace.
All right.
Yo, for those who are on
Yeah, I'm closing out.